Hello, plinkers and tinkers. Alright, guys, today we're doing the pistol grip upgrade accessorizing video for your Crosman AR platform. We're going to go over Magpul ergo grips. These two are ergo grips, and here's a Daniel Defense. I'll show you why I say this is easier than you think. There are only a few things you guys need to pay attention to, and it's not that hard and not that complicated to actually accessorize this. You know, if you're over 6 foot, then you're probably gonna want to have a MOE, K2 plus grip. If you want to cut down your angle, your grip angle, you're gonna want to change that. And let's face it, guys, rubberized grips just they feel great. This under part here, you all know it rubs, it catches. It's not a deal breaker, but it's a bit annoying. So while you have these things off, you can polish off your corners so they stop rubbing when you got your finger under there. It doesn't take much, just a couple of scratches, or you could even just cut off the corners with a utility knife. Just make a nice job if you want it to be aesthetically pleasing. Okay, guys. Now, for anybody who's experienced with the Crosman, if I just show you their traditional grip, there you go. You can see the two holes. And if I show you, see, I bet you would say this is not a Crosman grip, but this is the Bushmaster grip. And if you notice, there is no hole here. There's no retaining hole for the spring on the rear takedown detent spring. And from what I see in all the comments and most of the videos and in the forums, is everybody's worried about drilling out these holes, and then everybody posts comments how they drilled all their holes perfectly. This is why I'm saying it's easier than you think, guys, because you don't need to worry about this. The first grip I installed was this one, this ergo grip, and this one I did go through the hassle of measuring and drilling out a dimple for the rear takedown detent spring. And then when I got to putting on my Magpul K2 Plus on my Bushmaster, I take off the Bushmaster grip and there's no dimple. So some of you might have already noticed it, but if you've never bought a Bushmaster and you're just going off forums, this will probably, set you, kill your mood. If you don't have the tools, you're gonna figure you can't do it. But I guarantee you guys, you do not need to drill this little dimple hole out, and the Bushmaster is the proof. So on this Magpul, I did not drill this out, and on this ergo grip, I did not drill the hole out either. On both of these two here, I didn't even need to fiddle with the fire selector spring slot. I think on this one, on this ergo grip, I just passed the small Dremel bit, and I just removed excess rubber that was probably from the molding and manufacturing process that was stuck in the hole. It was just preventing the spring from bouncing up and down. But yeah, guys, you really don't need to tinker. If you buy a real AR mil-spec grip, your hole should be the proper size. And it should go all the way down to the same, give or take maybe 1/16 max. But it should just go all the way down to the bottom of your hole with no problem. And if you compare that to a Crosman, see, it's practically the same distance out. I'll get that over some white. See, there's your Crosman height for the spring. And if I just stick it into the Daniel Defense grip, the spring still bounces up and down, and it sticks out approximately the same. That's all you need, guys. If you can't push it down, don't kink your spring or anything. Maybe you do need to just pass a small, just a little shot of Dremel or a drill bit. You don't have to widen out your hole. Leave your hole on your mil spec grip the way it is. The thing that you need to pay attention to is the fact that on your Crosmans and the mil spec grips, the angle, so if I get a little screwdriver here, the angle on this surface here, this inside surface, okay, this is not going to be the same on every single, even if it's a Magpul, Ergo Grip, Daniel Defense, Crosman. These angles and distances might shift a little bit, might be a little bit different. And what that does is when you go and torque down your pistol grip and you torque down the screw on your pistol grip, you see this play? This wobble here is going to force your grip to shift again and go flat against this surface. This inside surface is going to want to go flat with this inside surface. So the main thing you want to focus on is shimming the inside gap right along. Yeah, that's black. You can't really see that. Maybe on the Ergo grip. There, you see that gap? You see the gap right here? That's the gap you have to worry about. Because if your grip does not torque flush against this surface and doesn't torque against this surface flush, then tightening your screw, your pistol grip screw, is going to make your grip want to torque downwards. What's going to happen with that is you're going to have cycling issues. Stuff like you're going to have to charge it every single time you shoot. Full auto might work, but then you go on semi-auto, and then you're going to have to rack your charging handle every single time you fire because it's just not going to cycle properly. Because if the spring in here is not pressing the right amount of force on your rear, on the fire selector, the cams are going to apply pressure. The cams of the fire selector are going to apply pressure on the cams inside your fire control unit, and then it just won't cycle. It won't function as intended. It's not going to work properly. So that's pretty much it. Now I'm gonna tell you the easy ways to do this, to go about this, because I have two Ergo grips and I have a Magpul. And by the way, this is a real Daniel Defense grip. I will be putting this on my my Daniel Defense build. It's almost complete. Look at that. And I even got a suppressor for it, for the 3-prong muzzle device. Man, this guy, I'm loving it. So yeah, I do want to install this guy right into there. So I will have an upcoming video about how to finagle and tinker with your trigger guard. All right, that was just a side note. Put that aside. Okay, guys. So I would recommend the first option, regardless if you buy a Magpul or an Ergo grip or any other brand. Ergo grip, I guess this is the company. See, this thing was only $6. They have the Ergo gapper. It fills the trigger guard gap, and that guy is gonna go right in here, right into the trigger guard. Now, this is for mil spec, real ARs. And the reason why we have a gap here is because we have to assume that Crosmans aren't perfect mil spec replicas. These grips were made for real ARs, and therefore we must assume that these have the proper sizes. Now the holes are all lined up. The only difference is the width of your grip right here. So The ergo gapper, you get that, and you can just pop it in at the bottom here, and the insides, they almost perfectly fit. But if you see here, I have a couple of, you do need to shave it off a little bit. Let's see if I could separate these. Anyways, you can see I have a couple of little rubber bits, and alls I did was I just shaved off perpendicular. I just trimmed it one little piece at a time so it would fit. It would just pop right in this hole here. Now, if you're gonna do that, guys, you really need a real utility knife, X-Acto blade. If you have those little flimsy ones from the dollar store with a little flimsy blade, I'd put that aside. Those blades will flex. You want a real utility knife with a solid blade. You want it to be spick and span and that as sharp as it can get. Because if you go in here with if you try and cut this with a rusty blade, all you're gonna do is you're gonna have to force more. It's gonna be crooked cuts. It's gonna make ugly cuts, and you might cut yourself. The whole reason of using properly sharpened and proper tools is to not, you never want to force more than you have to force. The tool is supposed to do the job for you. So it's gonna cut like butter. This is just rubber. It's hard rubber, but if you got a good blade, it's gonna go through like butter. You'll be able to do precision cuts, and just take your time. Don't rush anything. Depends how many of these you want to buy. They're not that expensive, but yeah. So I would say that would be my first option, because you could trim this to fit inside the gap with any, yeah, I guess I'll put this away before I cut myself. To fit with any type of grip. You just need to bridge up the gap and give your pistol grip a surface to torque against. All right, so that was the easiest way to to deal with the gap here. That's the easiest way. My second method, I would recommend that you get some zip ties or tie wraps or whatever. Don't get the super small size, because this gap is about 1/16 of an inch, maybe 1 millimeter, 1.5 millimeters. So you do need to mean it out. You can't put something skinny in there, because your grip is still just gonna torque crooked. So I chose black, because if you put white in there, then it's obvious gonna be aesthetically unpleasing. So you get yourself a pack of black zip ties. Make sure they're at least 1/16 of an inch thick. Now, what I did to get here, I'll get rid of the ergo grips for now, because this might require a bit more tinkering than getting the ergo grip space gapper. So as you all know, on your zip tie, you got your pointy part that slips in to the slot. And if you, on practically all types of tie wraps, you see, once you're done with the teeth that actually lock your zip tie into place, your zip tie is kind of gonna bend, and it will taper off a little bit. It's gonna taper. So what I did is I eyeballed where it tapered, because I want the taper to fit right here in the curve. And now this might be a bit OCD, because you don't have to go all the way. I wanted to completely fill the hole, so it didn't look like the other gap. It doesn't really matter. Now with hindsight, I couldn't really care. I would probably just snip it straight and shim it, and this little corner here doesn't really matter. So if you want to be a perfectionist, you're going to look to where your tie wrap tapers. And this you can eyeball. You can measure it if you want, but I just eyeballed it. because you could trim your tie wrap after. I made sure the taper winds up right in the corner. Then you can make a mark, but I just pinched it off. You get a pair of cutters and you can just snip this tie wrap. So if you can get some light and see the teeth on this, can I do it? Oh, there, yeah, okay. So you see my teeth finish right there. So snip that off, and then you can get a bit more precise trimming. Then you can snip off the top part. It's gonna be about there. Hold on to the piece you want to keep because the other is gonna go flying. There you go. Now, when you're reseating your grip, you're gonna need to do two of these, two little pieces like this. And as you're reseating your grip, so let's say this was my Magpul grip. As you're reseating it, you're just gonna slide them into your notches here on the side. Whoop. It's all right. All right. So you slide them in, push them all the way up to the top, and then now your pistol grip has a firm surface so the screw torques your grip against this, and it's not going to bend any more than it has to. And this should, if you got about 1/16, it should line up any hole perfectly with your fire selector spring hole. Man, these black lowers, the light is not good. All right, and you might have to do a couple of trials and errors as you fit your tie wraps into the slot. But once they're there and once you start torquing in your screw, these tie wraps will go. Yeah, maybe put some extra light on there. Oh no, okay, yeah. The tie wraps will seat in place, and then you can go ahead and just torque down your screw. And as you saw in my assembly video, how to assemble the pistol grips and to manage your springs, you need to go in vertically. You don't want to kink anything. Don't go in crooked. Don't jam anything. You're going to let the screw compress the pistol grip into the lower receiver. And yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. That's all you need is zip ties, or if you have a couple of bucks, you just buy yourself an ergo gapper. There's probably other brands that make something similar to this, but this is what I had locally available, and it was $6. And this works great. Am I forgetting anything about? Yeah. Okay, yeah, if you buy real AR grips, you are going to get accessories and little bags of screws. If you have shims, make sure if you can use them, make sure you use them. See, this one came with the my sniper ergo grip with the palm swell, the palm rest. I didn't need to use this, and I didn't use any. I just reused the stock Crosman screw. So you're just going to want to reuse your screw. And one last note, I would recommend once you take your Crosman grip, see the difference between the hole? Crosman's made their hole perfect for a screw, and now on the Daniel Defense, it's an oval. So I would highly recommend you find any washer that just fits inside all the way deep and goes flush to the bottom of the pistol grip. Just use any washer you can get and just shim the surface area of your screw. That's going to help you get a better surface area on your AR pistol grip. Yeah, so that's pretty much it for the pistol grips, guys. It's easier than you think. You don't have to worry about this rear hole that everybody's been talking about for the past 4 years. Just make sure your springs go in perpendicular, and that when you put in the spring for your fire selector, it has the same height as your Crosman spring. It needs to have the same pressure. If it's too high, it's going to push your fire selector. If it's too low, it's not going to actuate properly. You will have malfunctions. Let me know in the comments, guys, if you have any other problems or issues, but I think this is pretty versatile, and you could apply this to any type of pistol grip you're going to buy. So stay tuned for my next video on the pistol grips, where I actually tinker with the trigger guard. Thanks for watching, Plinkers. Always be safe and wear iPro.